Hi everyone, good morning. So let me share my screen. Okay, so like previous classes, like we discussed about Apex classes, triggers, batch Apex. So like real-time scenarios, questions and answers, and we discussed about couple of interview questions as well, right? So today also like we are going to discuss about like in real-time scenario based on questions and answers. Topic should be like test classes. What are the questions they will ask about the test classes in real-time scenarios and normal interview questions as well. So let me share my screen. I mean, it's already sharing. Let me open PPT. So animation slideshow from beginning. Okay. So like, what is the purpose of the writing the test classes? So what is the purpose of the writing the test classes, right? So let's say we are going to implement some Apex classes or triggers, right? So after completion of the functionality, like we are going to test the functionality by using like unit test something. So that purpose, like we are writing the test classes, right? So let's say after developing an Apex class or Apex triggers, so we should write a unit test class, ensure that should be execute at least 75 lines of code, 75% lines of the code. If you are moving the code from sandbox to sandbox, regarding code coverage, it won't be face any issue, right? If you are moving the code from sandbox to production, you need to include all test classes at the same at the time of deployment, and Salesforce will run all the test classes which you include for the deployment, as well as the test classes which are already present into the production. If the code coverage is less than 75%, so deployment will be failed. So make sure you people are make at least 75%, minimum 75% code coverage should be there while deploying the test classes into the production. The purpose we are using like test classes. So is it possible to write test code inside an Apex class or Apex trigger? No. So we cannot write test code test methods inside the Apex trigger. We cannot write test methods or test classes uh, inside the trigger, right? So why? Because we are not using, like we are not decorating the with at the rate is test, right? So we can write test methods only in a class which is decorated to with at the rate is test. It's a keyword for at the rate is test. No. So we have a governor limit for the overall Apex code size of the organization, which is 6 MB. If you decorate a class with at the rate is test annotation Apex code, so its governor limit will be bypassed. Okay. So what is the syntax of test method? What is the syntax of test method? So they will ask like we need to write some syntax for the test methods and test classes, right? So we have to write this. This is the code. So we have to write for that syntax like at the date is test private class my test class. So this is the class name and open braces and static test method wire test method one. You need to write open parenthesis, close parenthesis, and open flower bracket and close flower bracket, and again test method 2 open and braces close braces, and we need to close this one. So note here like we need to call either public, and the test class can be called either public or private. So I called here like class only in private. So if you want to call either it should be public or private. So this is the syntax of the test method. So what is the purpose of the see all data? So like in test classes, we are using sometimes like see all data, right? Keyword. So what is the purpose of that? So by default, test classes cannot be recognized the existing data into the database, right? So if you mention at the date is test cl data equal to true, then test classes can recognize the existing data into the database. Let's say take one example for a list of custom settings. We cannot fetch the existing data without cl data equal to true in test classes. Suppose we have a custom object called custom object underscore c, and it contains many records. We have a custom object, it contains many records. We cannot fetch the existing data without c all data equal to true in test classes. So if you want to see that, we have to mention cl data equal to true. That's the keyword for that. Note, it is not recommended to use CL data equal to true for any test class based on the existing data. Based on the existing data in database, code coverage will be impact. For that purpose, we are using like CL data equal to true in test classes. What is the purpose of test dot start test and test dot stop test? What was the purpose of that? So mainly we are using this kind of functionality, like we avoiding the SQL queries like governor limit, right? Okay, we'll discuss for this. Test dot start test and test dot stop test. So maintain the fresh set of governor limits. Assume that you have a consuming 99 SQL queries outside of the test class, right? So we need to use the test dot start test and test dot stop test. Then if you include many SQL queries inside inside of this method, so it will be count starting from the 1. So usually it will be counting for 99, but whenever we are using these two methods, that count will be starting from the 1. For test method, we can use test dot start test and test dot stop test for only for one time. So we have to use this functionality only one time into the test classes, right? To execute asynchronous methods synchronous, we can call the methods from the inside of the these two methods, like test dot start test and test dot stop test. So this is the purpose of the these two methods. What is the purpose of the system dot run as? What is the purpose of system dot run as? By default, test classes can run system mode. Everybody knows that, right? System mode test class will be run, right? If you want to execute a piece of code, let's say we have some piece of code, you have to execute that code, right? In a certain user, then we have to use that context, right? So system dot run as user instance. User instance. For more details, like second question in the visual force category, like it should be part of visual force page questions, like there we can get the more answers for this. Okay, so to avoid mixed dml operations, to avoid mixed dml operations error, so we can include dml statements inside of system dot run as. Still the error occurs, like keep dml statements inside the test dot start method and test dot stop method. So we can keep like this one, right? So what is the asset statements and what was the purpose of that? To compare actual value and expected value, we use asset statements. Like what are the type of statements? Like you can say system dot asset equal to value 1 value 2. If both value 1 value 2 are same, then test class run successfully, otherwise test class will fail. So system dot asset not equal to values, like value 1 value 2. If both value 1 and value 2 are not same, then test classes run successfully, otherwise test class will be failed. System dot asset equals, system dot asset equals value 1 greater than value 2. If the condition satisfied, then test class run successfully, otherwise test class will be failed. So what is the purpose of test dot is running test? Sometimes we cannot satisfy the certain if conditions for the apex classes. In those situations, on these if conditions, we can add test dot is running test separated with our condition. Example, if condition or test dot is running test, so this is the condition, we can pass this. Okay, and what is the purpose of the at the date is at the date test visible? Sometimes in test classes we need to access a variable from apex class. If it is private, we cannot access. For that, we will replace private with public. For this reason, we are compromising the security. To avoid this, before the private variables in apex class, we can include at the date test visible, so that even the variable is private, we can access from the test classes. So these are the important questions in the test classes. Apart from these questions, they won't ask much more into the test classes interview point of view, like in real time scenarios. And coming to one more question, like what are the test classes for the best approaches? What are the test class for best approaches? Like we should not depend on any existing data into the database. We should create the test data for all the possible scenarios. Not like profiles and record types cannot be created programmatically. We can query from the database. For the remaining objects, including users, we should create the test data. So while testing the Apex triggers and batch classes, we should do bulk testing at least 200 records. We should test for all the positive and negative scenarios. So these are the best practices for the approaches into the test classes. So these are the test classes entry questions like scenario based on real time scenarios as well. Apart from this, they won't ask like much questions into the test classes. Thanks for watching, and next video will covering about some integration topics and overall lightning web components. So those kind of interview questions will cover on next video. Thanks for watching.